Kia ora and welcome back to Breakfast. It is 7:25. As we covered on the show yesterday, 500 spaces per fortnight will be set aside in MIQ facilities for skilled and critical workers over the next 10 months to help secure our economic recovery. The allocations will include RSE workers or seasonal workers, specialised construction workers, international students and also refugees. But one sector that isn't benefiting from the government's allocation is the dairy industry, which has found itself left out in the cold with 2,000 job vacancies that urgently need filling. Zooming in from Kirikiriroa, Hamilton, to explain why the decision's left such a sour taste is Ben Diaz from immigration law and recruitment firm The Regions. Morena, Ben, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Morena, Jenny May, thanks.
Morena, just before we kind of dive into the reaction of yesterday's announcement, just provide us with a little bit of context and quickly run us through some of the industry stats. The dairy's contribution to exports economy, number of people directly employed by the industry, and, if you can, a number of on-farm job vacancies, which, I mentioned in the introduction anyway. But if you can give us that quick context to the conversation.
Do my best. The industry employs about 40,000 people directly on farm and obviously hundreds of thousands from your dairy companies through to your accountants, carrying at least 2,000 vacancies nationwide. Our more remote farms are grossly overrepresented. You'll find farms on the outskirts of Hamilton are doing totally fine. A farm 30 minutes from Ashburton might be really struggling. 28.5% of export commodities are dairy. That probably includes a bit of not specifically milk products, but just a whopping majority of our country's economic output comes from our farms. No real surprise, the world loves our clean, green meat and milk. And the past 30 years, there's been a lot of demand from the world. Hey, please produce more milk. So we've started farming in some of our more remote corners. Probably quite aware that human population is stagnant, if not declining, in rural New Zealand. Carrying a heck of a lot of vacancies into calving for the second year running.
You're done good, Ben. You're done good. So then, I'm going to make this an open question to you. So what do you make of yesterday's announcement by the government?
Pretty poorly informed. I'd encourage them to look at the economic data that we're talking about, the location of some of these farms. There was a suggestion from the Minister of Agriculture that the industry needs to be more open to hiring locals. The industry are begging anyone to come and work in farming, but when you're talking about needle and haystack scenarios of trying to find people in our more remote pockets, it's physically not possible. We look to Australia and Canada, Northern Territory and Alberta are two examples I found on a few clicks in Google coming into this. They've both got very defined immigration policies for their more remote corners. Why can't we do the same? It's not rocket science, and that'll flow through from MIQ beds as the world continues to deal with the pandemic. Hopefully, go ahead.
No, sorry, I forget that you can actually see me. Did the dairy industry, as the Agriculture Minister Damien O'Connor said, pull out of a government-funded campaign to attract people to work in the industry?
The Minister is mistaken. Go Dairy did a heck of a lot, and they innovated as we hit COVID and lockdown and the pandemic, launched an online platform, but a collaboration with MSD's Mana for Mahi. Where the Minister's comments have a tiny bit of accuracy, there were some physical training courses that were to be run. However, there were no enrolments for those physical training courses. So as a country, we're coming out of lockdown, getting large groups of people together physically was not exactly the done thing, aside from trying to recruit in these areas where there's not large amounts of available people for work anyway. Because of a lack of physical enrolments, some in-person, let's call them old school training courses were not run. Still plenty of online courses were run. Dairy New Zealand done an incredibly good job getting the online platform up and running. The Minister was pretty misguided in those comments.
I said in the intro, 2,000 job vacancies that urgently need filling. So what are the potential consequences if most or all those jobs aren't filled and they aren't filled soon?
Well, you've got your obvious economic consequences for lack of production, etc. But on a personal level, on a human level, for our clients that are running these farms, you've got terrible mental health scenarios when they're carrying vacancies in the load themselves. You've got animal welfare and environmental risk exposure, and then you've got health and safety on farm. How on earth can we run these farms if we don't have the people required to run them? A lot of people owning and operating farms, your contract milkers, your share milkers, they are absolutely out on their feet, and they're contemplating their futures in the industry because they can't staff their businesses.
Ben, I've got to go to the news because we've just hit 7:30, but where's the answer?
A more real-world solution. Policymakers need to start living in the real world. Let's have a small allotment of MIQ beds. The dairy industry are begging to pay the median wage. Employers are more than happy to pay MIQ costs. And we need these people in rural New Zealand long-term. We need them as part of our communities, as part of our schools. This is a long-term solution. We're not asking for people to come in for 3 months and pick a bit of fruit. This is a long-term solution where we need positive net migration to rural New Zealand.
Thank you so much, Ben. Really appreciate.
Hope it helps.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you so much, Ben. Ben Diath, Regional Recruiter. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a fascinating interview for me.
Yeah.
Because it's not something I know anything about, really, and
No.
Ben made a compelling case.
Yeah, but also talking about long-term benefits, right? As opposed to short-term.
Folk in rural communities, sustaining those communities, keeping the schools open, for example, right at 7:30 here is Indira with the news.